Oh boy, today's gonna be a good day to read one of these. So good, in fact, my cat came to the room. Hi, kitty. I love you. I love you, kitty. Hey guys, welcome to another... Oh, I almost said another Awakening Showcase. Welcome to another Grand Chase video, and today we're going to be reading another schedule maintenance. I already read this because I normally like to read this now beforehand, so it makes it easy to break down to you guys. Judging the preview that they released a few days ago, or was it yesterday? I don't remember. It did seem like a very promising update. So I want to go in here and just see what else did they added to this update, because I'm just gonna say right now, if you haven't seen this already, which it's been a few hours since it passed, so I don't know what you've been waiting for. If you've been waiting for me to read this, I'm flattered, but I'll just tell you right now, this update really seems to be a really good one, if I can say. So before we start, I'd like to say if you enjoyed this video and like to see more Grand Chase in the future, you're more than welcome to leave a like, comment, subscribe, because we do Grand Chase at least once a week in this channel. We're going to be doing something a little bit more different soon in this channel, at least until we finish the Awakening Showcases and a few other videos that I want to do. Hopefully the next one will be coming pretty soon. I'm pretty sure it's live by the time of this recording. I don't know, it's been a while. So without further ado, let's just start with the godly attendance log. We cannot have a new event without changing this one. We do have some really cool stuff here, as you can tell. One of them being the Goon Cordy set, which is a returning costume, and I really do like this one. We're also going to be seeing like Chaser points resets, which is something that I didn't thought they would actually give it to us. Also some property scrolls to help us out, a plus 16 and 17 property scrolls, and this card here, which I cannot really tell what that is. I thought it was going to be Gorgos Queen, but it doesn't seem to be that. Oh, it's apparently the Unknown Goon Warrior monster card. They're good for collection, so I suppose it will be good nonetheless. And the first thing they introduced to this is something pretty funny to me, is the return of the Gorgos Queen Lair event. And here's the funny thing about the fact that Gorgos Queen is back. A few updates ago, I did talk about how this one Gorgos costume set that they were giving on the bingo event, I'm pretty sure it would make more sense if it was the Gorgo Queen Nest event instead of the bingo. I think they kind of heard my feedback on it, because now we're getting Gorgo's Queen Lair back. I don't know if there's like any devs watching my channel or anything like this, but the fact that they did this, it's honestly pretty funny to me, I'm not gonna lie. So for those that know how the dungeon works, entries, we're going to be receiving 2 entry tickets between Monday to Friday, and then on the weekends we get 5 tickets instead of 2. There are 2 difficulties for this level. One is being normal and the other is being hard, and this is an area that can be played with up to 4 people. It's nothing too difficult by any means. I think Gorgos Queen is like one of the easiest events that we have in the game. It's nothing to be like afraid or anything like that. The rewards for this level isn't that different as far as I noticed. The one thing to note is that when you play on hard difficulty, you get double the rewards instead of playing on normal, and these rewards are basically the same. You get Gorgo Queen's eggs, Gorgos Queen box, and hero bullions, which I'm pretty sure this is something new. I don't remember getting hero bullions in here. I could be wrong on that because it's been a little while, but yeah, you can also get hero bullions now. And additionally, you can get either a Gorgos Queen card or an Enraged Gorgos Queen card, as well as a new Gorgos Queen enhancement box. I actually don't remember this either. Maybe this was a thing from last time. Again, it's been a while, I don't remember. But we also get this box as well. Here to talk about the crafting list, which for Gorgos Queen, you can use these eggs to then create other items. One of them being more queen boxes, or you can get some Cordy sets like the Queen Max box, or 3 different types of Cordy equipments. One of them being the Gorgos Queen Mask, the other one is the Knuckles, and then the Stompers. Or if you just want to waste 40, you can get another card, which not really that recommended, but unless you want to go for some fusion cards, you can also go for that. One of these ones has crit damage as far as I remember. I don't know which one it is. I'm pretty sure it's the Knuckles. Editor, you're more than welcome to correct me and tell me which one of these has crit damage, because I do know for a fact we have these 3 already. And here they talk about the things you can get for these 2 chests. The default chest you can get basically by just playing the game and changing for one of these eggs. And the things here that I can talk about that is pretty good for this chest, one of them is being GC Club for a day, GP property scrolls, the stats change scrolls, which is mostly stuff reserved for void equipment, and then the godlike single property scrolls as well, always coming in clutch for saving these chests. And then for the enhanced box, basically the only thing here that is worth talking about is the reinforcement protection scrolls, specifically how for this one you can get to up to 17, considering how farming for these can be a little bit annoying. And then we got the weekly missions, which is nothing too complicated or anything. Basically, what you just need to do is just play Gorgos Queen event for a total of 15 times for the week. And you basically are going to be able to get some pretty good rewards as far as I can see. One of them being GTA Property Scrolls, the Goon Cordy Select Box, which I mentioned before, and I think it's funny that we're going to be receiving that. And also a Gorgos Queen Gauntlet box, which I'm not sure what that is for week 3, but very curious to see what that is. And then they talk about the returning seal breakers that we're going to be getting pretty soon. One of them is the Grand School, which is kind of awkward how the L here is actually missing. But more awkwardly, why do the male characters have just a big forehead, dude? Look at who no. Dude, I can play tic-tac-toe in his forehead. But the pad, as far as I know, is also pretty good. So we're going to be receiving this one on May 28th until June 18, as well as the Lord of the Ocean, as I almost forgot to talk about this one. Basically the Sangonomiya Kokomi costume. And then starting from June 4th until June 25, we're going to be receiving the White Romance, as well as Crystal Garden. And then starting on June 11 and going to July 2nd, we're going to be receiving Star Whisper and Bubble Festa. And that was basically it for the updates, but now we're going to be jumping into the quality of life improvement. And let me tell you, this is the part I was really looking forward to, because there's a lot of stuff here that we need to talk about. First off, they're going to be adding a preset function where basically now you can add different sort of presets for equipments, Cordy, Rune, quick slots. So for example, let's say you have your main build that you use against Void, maybe Harrier or another world. Now you can create another build that is for, say, maybe Tame Resistance or Experience. Now you're able to create a different preset specific for that build instead of having to remove everything and then equip the right things that you need for that build. So now you can create presets and it's now much more faster to get the right builds. And these are set per character, not globally. And you're normally get 2 different types of presets. However, you can get more by using these equipment preset vouchers, which probably is going to be something that will require a lot of EP, but it's something you're going to be able to get it now. And they also now adding a combined preset function. So it seems like you're not only going to be able to like set different presets, but you're also going to be able to mix these presets while playing the game. For example, if I want to use my first build and then use, I don't know, the chase points for my second preset, I can do that instead of just need to rely on my first preset, which is pretty nice and all, but I really want to know were they able to get 1,022,000 attack power with this title? I need to know what build are they using. Then a good thing about this is not only you can add titles, but you can also register different types of pets. But of course, you only have one of these presets unlocked when you play the game. If you want to expand them, you're going to need one of these expansion vouchers. One thing that is worth mentioning here, if something like a Cordy set is like transmuted, or you just maybe sell on equipment or something like this, it will automatically be unregistered from the preset, so be careful with that. Then the next thing they talk about is the play fatigue reduction. This is something that they teased on that teaser post, but we're going to talk about it here because I haven't talked about that before. So the first thing they talk about here is the Hero Dungeon improvements. The Crucible, Sanctum of Destruction, and Wizard's Labyrinth can be played to up to 5 times instead of 1. And they changed the rewards based on this change of point needed to play 5 times instead of 1. Barricade Slayer and Tower of Disappearance no longer has time restrictions, meaning you're going to be able to play either one of these levels at any time you want. God is real. That's all I'm gonna say. One thing here to note that in Barricade Slayer, the Alcubra monster card box, they call it Adam here, but we'll take it. It's now gonna be a clear reward for Barricade Slayer instead of something that he can drop. They also changed a few improvements on the Hero Dungeon rewards. So now we're gonna be receiving individual items as rewards instead of the crafting materials for the Hero Dungeon box. You know, that black box that if you open, there's a chance you can get like a legendary Berkas equipment for free. And because of this, they also removed so that enemies don't drop the precious pearls. They also removed the selection rewards for when you beat level 30 for Wizard's Labyrinth, which I guess it means that now when you clear level 30 you get both rewards. And now the Phantom Phoenix earrings is something you can get from the Hero Bullion shop. Great Explosion of Conads. The reward acquisition now went from 2 times to 1 time, which now they adjust the dimensional cores you get upon clearing a dungeon. So now we're going to be probably getting 2 every time we beat a level. The fragments that we get from Dimensional Guardian earrings and piercings can now be moved to the warehouse. You cannot see me, but I have a big smile on my face. And now we're going to be receiving a new fragment reward. I suppose this is the best way I can say. So when you finish Great Explosion of Conat, you're now going to be able to get a Scattered Chaos Fragment, which is an item that is going to be usable to craft another earring and piercing that you can drop from Explosion of Conat, by using the purple earring and piercing that you crafted before. And it seems like we're going to be needing 200 of these as well as 100 of these cores. And they also made some changes on the raid dungeons, which mostly involve around Void, but they also did improve these raid dungeons. Now, instead of playing 3 times a week, we can only play 2 times a week, meaning that we get some adjust rewards for the dungeons because of it. And every time we finish a raid level, we get a twisted Voidal box depending on the area we're playing. And these boxes give usually the normal stuff that they would give nowadays. However, the one thing here that I think it's new is that now they give protection scrolls from +15 to +17. They give the cards for their respective areas and also scrolls to enhance your Void equipment. And these goes for the other chests as well. Like Taint box, for instance, only gives cards that is based on Void Taint, and then Void Nightmare gives cards based on Void Nightmare. And that's basically the only difference between these 3 boxes. They give the exact same thing outside of the cards that their levels based off. Another cool little update that they improved here that I think is pretty awesome is that now when you select equipment for the boxes, instead of basically like having to pick one equipment at a time, you can now select how many you want from that box. As you can see right here, he's picking like 12 helmets, 10 lower armor, 17 cloaks, 13 swords, instead of the, you know, pick one at a time that we had before. So now, as you can see right here, we're able to get everything in one go. And I really need to talk about that. I'm kind of doubting on those 1,000,000 power points, because look, if you're seeing this Phantom Phoenix being the better equipment, there's something fishy going on here. I don't like that. Something that is a little bit small, but also I think is very appreciated, is that they added some few visuals and audio changes. As you can see here, now you're able to change the opacity of some damage values, and this goes not only for your characters, this can go for the other people in the lobby characters. You can even turn on hit effect, and for audio you can even change like stuff from background, character voices, sound effects. You're gonna be able to like customize your sounds to be able to play in a way that makes you comfortable. The one thing that I think is pretty bad is that they're removing the existing hotkeys to remove the sounds from the music and the sound effects, which to me it was pretty good because I was able to test stuff on the fly, but now I'm not gonna be able to do that. Sucks, but I suppose it's not that much of a big of a deal. Moving on, they added a room master delegation function, which now means that the leader of the room can now make someone else the leader of the room if they so desire. All they have to do is right click the person that they want to be the leader, and then there's going to be a button here called assign a room master. So once you click that, that person is going to be now the leader of the party, and I think that's pretty interesting considering how sometimes some people just don't want to be the leader. Changing characters now in the waiting room is just so much better now. They removed the 10-second restriction that had before, and now you're going to be able to see the members of the room as well as the dungeon status, the chat while switching characters. It's basically like Season Chaos, where you were able to switch characters on the fly, and this makes me so happy because I'm not gonna lie, I hate the character select system we have currently, so having this old system back really makes me happy. Lastly, they talk about the Dimension Guardian equipment properties. So now the Dimensional Guardian equipments now no longer gonna have the properties of defense, vitality, HP recovery, GP gain, and special defense. But the one strange thing here to talk about is that if this equipment has one of the properties that has been removed, it will still be counting for the stats. So even if it's no longer there, you still have that applied, which is a little bit weird. I'm not really sure if I read this correctly, but it definitely feels weird that they still in there even though they're not showing up. And we're also going to be able to check the new properties and as well as the list rate information on their website, but it's only going to be available after the update. So for now, we're just going to have to sit down and wait. Lastly, we're going to talk about a few improvements that they've done for the characters. The first person they talk about here is Rin. Now you're going to be able to use the 4th bar skill once you're transformed, very similar to what Ryan has. And also they improved so the player can now use quick save while transforming, which not gonna lie makes me want to redo that showcase. But they're also giving her a new command attack called Unfold type 1 and 2, which is going to be an X up input, as well as Transform Defense type 1 and 2, which you're going to be able to use this by just pressing X twice, and before you could do this with X once. I'm honestly not sure what this one is. I don't think I did this on my showcase because I didn't even remember that. And then Lime got a buff that you can now cancel the Berserker state by pressing C down again while the effect is active. The best way I can compare to this is like Zero's Grand Arc. If you activate like maybe the 4th skill or Grand Arc Domination, if you press C up, you cancel the quote-unquote transformation. It's basically what she gets now. When you press Berserk and then you press C down while she's Berserk, you stop the Berserk mode. It's basically that. And here they talk about some other fixes, which the majority of them are basically some visual and small little inconveniences. Although one thing here that I can talk about here that is very important for my Brazilian players, they're now applying the Portuguese voice for Kalia, Aizen, Zero, Decane, Lei, Dio, and Ronan, which basically now only is Rin, Lime, and Uno doesn't have a Portuguese awakening voice, which they're probably going to add this in the next update. And boy, that was it for the schedule maintenance. This video ended up being a lot longer than I thought it was. When it comes to the events, I'm not gonna lie, I'm actually really happy that we got Gorgos Queen Lair again. This is an event that I personally enjoy for being something a little more casual and not something to stress about it. The rewards, I personally don't feel like anything is too different. I'm gonna have to remind myself if the enhancement box was in there because I really don't remember, but other than that, it's basically the exact same event. And I just really can't be mad about it because, like I said, I really do enjoy Gorgos Queen Lair. It's a pretty simple event, a little bit too repetitive, but not a bad event by any means. And look, you need to take into consideration that we've been playing Abyssal Path for like 4 months. Yeah, I'll take Gorgos Queen any time of the day. I need a break from Abyssal Path for like the rest of the year probably. I do like the idea of a preset function, even though I never really pay attention to that now until like reading this and realize, okay, this could actually be pretty interesting. Mainly because I don't use it. I think my main build with Alicets is like the good enough for anything. Maybe Hanok being like the main exception because you do need a lot of tame resistance there, so I suppose that's the only time I would ever use that, but I suppose this is pretty fun to just have in the game. Specifically, I suppose Cordy, which I think is where people were going to be using more frequently, I suppose, depending on the situation. I don't think this is like a bad change at all. I really think this can come pretty handy, specifically at endgame, right? There's people who farm for experience and they use different sort of builds, so this will hopefully make this a little more faster. The one thing I really don't like too much is like one different voucher for every expansion feels a little too much. I can kind of understand one per expansion, but having to like spend VP for each one of these makes me a little bit uncertain, if I can be honest. I don't like this one too much, but it's not that bad compared to some other stuff. I think we can still do some pretty good stuff with just 2 presets unlocked. And then for the play fatigue reduction, I really just can't help to say how much I love these changes. Specifically the fragments for the Eerie and Piercing. The fact that I can now move it into the warehouse is just like, it's such already like a big play to me. However, I really need to talk about this because it only seems like it's going to be the fragments for Eerie and Piercing. The cores, I'm also guessing that the new fragment is also not going to be movable to the warehouse. And I think this is kind of like the one thing that really drops me off a little bit, because I also wish that this item was movable to the warehouse. And the fact they're going to be able to play this now 1 time instead of 2, it doesn't really change that much. You're still getting like 2 per day. The only difference now is that it's easier to get these 2 in a day. Like I think for the relic version of the Eerie and Piercing is like 250 of these. That's like a lot of time to get these, and the fact that you cannot move to the warehouse, it's a lot of work to do. Now that I think about it, the fragments from the ring from Infinity Cloister is also something you cannot move to the warehouse, and I think that is also something that could have been like, at least look into it to like maybe stage 1 and 2 could be movable to the warehouse, or even the sealed version of the rings, because it doesn't make sense that we cannot move stuff that is sealed to the warehouse, where the rune specifically taught us that sealed stuff can be moved to the warehouse. It sucks, but I will not say it's like waste of potential, because ultimately they can just change this in some other update in the future. For now, I will say that just getting the fragments for the Eerie and Piercing is big W, especially when you consider how if you get 900 of these piercing fragments, you're able to craft a Gaian card for free. This kind of became a very good incentive to even go for this Gaian card, because before there wasn't much of a motivation to do that, especially when like crafting for these fragments was like extremely limited. So now that these fragments are now movable to the warehouse, it does open the doors for the possibility of farming for Gaian cards, which I personally think is pretty good, as well as the improvements from the raid mission. Being able to do this 2 times instead of 3 I think is pretty good, specifically how sometimes it is kind of annoying to find people willing to do this 3 times, so doing twice I think is already good enough. The cards and the scrolls going into these chests instead of being like a random chance when you clear the level is pretty good. Kind of makes me feel like things is already a little more organized. The select box improvement I would say is just godlike, and it's crazy for me to even think about that we had this since now. Kind of goes to show how sometimes Grand Chase can be like a way behind game sometimes. It is a 2003 game, so we kind of cut a slack there. And as for the Rune Master delegation function, I do vibe with this mechanic. I was actually really thinking about something like this for Grand Chase, but I really need to think about what if the person that is like the leader of the party gets AFK? Is somebody else randomly in the party assigned for the leader and then they can kick the old leader, or do we have to wait for the person to come back? It's like, this is a detail that I was actually really thinking about. Maybe if the leader gets AFK, they can assign like somebody else in the room to be the leader, and they can decide if they want to kick the old leader or not. I think this would make rooms a little more flexible, because I think this is like something that it's still like a problem with this game. The fact that leaders go AFK in the room it sometimes can really be annoying to just wait for the person to come back. Sometimes people don't even come back at all. So I do hope that like if the leader goes AFK, they do assign somebody else to be the leader. Or maybe better, maybe if the leader is AFK, somebody else can take the room master by force. Might as well just take that while they're not in the keyboard and then maybe kick them because they don't want to be there anymore or something. I don't know, this is something that we're gonna have to just check when playing the game, but if they don't have this, I think that's fine. Just having this as a start is already good enough, and then maybe in the future they can add that to make rooms a little more flexible instead of having to like wait for somebody who's not gonna come back. And I don't have much to talk about the character switching. I already talked about this before. We're basically going back to Grand Chase Chaos with the character select, and I'm really happy with this one. As well as the remove of these properties from Guardian equipment. Really wish some more of this was like removed from the end game equipment, like maybe Void equipment, because this thing really is just like a waste of time and materials, and it's just really annoying every time we get into one of these. So the fact that this is removed from Dimensional Guardian equipment, I think is already a good step to it. Although I'm not sure if this includes the earring and piercing, because they are, I think, considered Dimension Guardian equipment, or is this just the set that we get from playing Taroka and Temple of Time? It's something we're also going to have to figure out when we play the game, but so far removing these properties I don't think is that bad. And even if this is just like the droppable set, I don't think that's bad either, because the Dimensional Guardian set is like a mini version of the Berka's Lair equipment, so I don't think personally it's that bad if we remove these. I think it can like break a good leg if you have this set, but then again, that's something we're gonna have to check it out when the update's done. I have no idea. So yeah, overall, I'm really excited to just look at this update on my own. I do wish that Demon Core and the Fragments for the Ring were also movable to the warehouse, as I explained before, but I suppose this being like a first step to it, it's fine. They can always do this later if they really want to. Hopefully they think about this, because farming for these stuff is not easy. It's almost like 2 months of work. But what we got here, I don't think is that bad. I really love like the majority of stuff that they added in here. Looking forward to it, and I'm definitely going to be able to see how many fragments I have on total. It's definitely going to be a nightmare having to go through all of them. So on that note, we're going to leave the video here. Like I mentioned before, if you like this video and like to see more Grand Chase in the future, you're more than welcome to leave a like, comment, subscribe, because we do Grand Chase content here on a weekly basis. And if you guys thought this schedule maintenance is just as good as I think it is, or that maybe there were some things here and there that you wish that they talk about or change, you're more than welcome to leave in the comments below. I always like to read what you guys think about these sort of changes, specifically how in this one it seems like a lot of the game changed for the better, but you also don't need to talk about it. I definitely understand if you don't want to talk about it. I've been recording for 1 hour and 3 minutes, and if you've seen the last breakdown for the schedule maintenance, you know that I try to do these in under 30 minutes, and I failed miserably this one. Anyway, it is what it is. We'll leave the video here. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you guys have a great day today. Stay awesome, stay safe. Have a great farm section today, and remember, don't let this happen to your goon. They have feelings, and they are also very important. I say this when we have to kill Gorgos Queen for like the 4th time in this whole game. I really feel sad for this poor goon though. Anyway, we see each other next time. Peace.